Abaragani, welcome. Welcome to Mali Yetu's Community Webinar on the current educational crisis our children, parents, teachers, and community are experiencing. At this time, I would like to humbly request the permission from the elders of this community to begin the program. May I please have permission?
For me, you got it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mama Sanza. I know we are virtual, so we will continue our practice. We will continue to practice our traditions. At this time, would you please stand for the African American National Anthem and the African National Anthem, led by Jamaal and Sharonna Boyd. Please stand. Oh, the lyrics to the anthem are in the chat. I ask that you remain muted and please sing along.
All right. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise higher.
The listening skies, let it
Resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the hope and
the darkness at all. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought. Facing the rising sun, our new day's begun.
sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Now we'll be singing the African National Anthem. Mungu ibariki Afrika, wabariki viongozi wake, hekima, umoja na amani. Hizi ni anga zetu, Afrika na watu wake. Ibaraki Afrika, Ibaraki Afrika, Tubaraki watoto Afrika.
Ashe.
Ashe, I go.
Thank you, Jamaal and Sharonna Boyd, and everyone else who sung in the comfort of their own homes. Thank you very much. Today is the third day of Kwanzaa. I hope everyone can see me in the Kanara and the candles. We're celebrating the third principle, which is Ujima, which means cooperative work and responsibility. I will be lighting the third candle for the day. And what that means is, it means to build and maintain our communities together, to make our sisters and brothers' problems our problems, and solve them together. This is what this webinar is about. It's about identifying problems and challenges that our community are facing and come up with a solution. So I'm going to go ahead and light the candle. First, I'm going to light the black candle, which stands for Emoja, which means unity. The second candle is for the second principle, which is Kuji Chakalia, and that is the red candle, which means self-determination. The third candle is for today's principle, which is Ujima, collective work and responsibility. We're going to make our sisters and brother problems our own and solve them together. This is what this webinar is about, and this is what we set out to do. Ashe. The panel and the organizers of this webinar hope that this community conversation would manifest into action. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you Dr. Sanza Clark. She's a retired college professor. She's co-founder and executive director of Mali Yetu, and she will be our moderator for this evening's event. Dr. Sanza Clark.
Thank you, Michele. As everybody found out, that this webinar is dealing with the educational crisis, and we've asked 4 panelists to address some of the issues that are affecting our community. Our panel consists of Tanya Allen and Lee Clinton Buddy, Stephen Jamaal Boyd, and Yana Godbold. Those are our 4 main panelists. And then we have some other people that will come on board, like Robin Simmons, Parris Sanders. And they will kind of give us some more information. And I cannot forget Sharonna Boyd, who is a nurse and who will be here to fill some of the medical questions, and Theresa Mitchell, who's also a nurse and who will be filling some of the medical questions, and Don C., who's a psychologist who will be helping to answer some of the questions dealing with the stress issues. Okay, and since we're talking about the schools, okay, we got to get an understanding that the problems that we're facing now have been escalated because of the virus. But we must understand that schooling for us was never designed to educate us. And in many cases, what it did was to destroy our mind, our bodies, and most important of all, our spirit. So the environment that our children were placed in never fully encouraged them to bloom as well as they could. And we've kind of recognized that gap. We've argued about it, we've fussed about it, we've protested, we went to committees. But it was this virus that said, hey, I almost chose the wrong word that time. So I'm gonna say this stuff instead of the word I almost said. It became so apparent, that digital divide, that gap between what our children were learning and not learning, and what the so-called gifted part of our society, the gifted power, the supreme power in our country, had denied us the opportunity to know. When we look at what's going on now with the schools, we can't help but say, we've got to deal with it, we've got to address it, we've got to find some way of handling this. And the 4 main people in the panel, for that reason, came together, and each one of them is going to express some of the issues and talk about how some of these issues are affecting us. And so I'm going to turn it over to Tanya first to talk about, she's looking at me like, how did I get to be first? Issues that she wants to address. And then we'll pass the ball on to the next person. And audience, if you have any questions or answers, please put them in the question and answer box, and we will try to address them. Okay, Tanya, you can have it. What issue do you feel most strongly about?
I have been asked to speak about resources, and I guess I'm a little surprised, but that I'm first. But hey, we'll carry on. Ujima to everyone. Resources in our community are very, very rich, and when we talk about the digital divide, many of our parents, our students, teachers are experiencing problems because we are in the urban setting or either because of the color of our skin. And we're just gonna lay it out there like that. So the first thing that I would like to present as a resource, Sia, is 211. And if you can't see that on your screen, put a hand up or let me know. Okay, next. Okay, call 211. If you need help of any kind, this is in our community, which is Cleveland, Ohio. This is the number that you want to call. It is set up by United Way. It's free and confidential help. It's staffed 24/7. They have quick assessments of your needs, and they will help you to resolve your needs immediately. And on the screen, you may see some of the things that they can help with are housing, food, financial assistance, healthcare, taxes, and much, much more. Next. I live in Cleveland, and in the urban setting of Cleveland. So I went to the CMSD website and looked under family and community engagements. Actually, they have a tab for parents. And I found this to be the most helpful screen that I could come up with. They have hotlines for, as you can see, COVID, social and emotional supports, which in this pandemic, many of us have found that our children and parents, and some of us even need. If you need IT support, we have a number there, okay? School choice, in Cleveland, we have school choice. You can go to any school within the CMSD guidelines, so you can choose your school. Early childhood, family and community engagement, which is under this umbrella. They even have a number if you have problems that you want to address. We have many Spanish speaking, and Cleveland is unique in that they have many people from other countries that are migrating here. So that is why they have the multicultural, multilingual support. Special education. Many of our students find themselves in special ed and they have unique problems. So they have an office there that you can call if you have questions about that. Project ACT is for the homeless, and Cleveland has many homeless students. And what I like about it is that this is very confidential. If you were to go into the classroom, you would never know that any of these students are coming in cabs or buses or however they're getting there, because many of them are homeless. And any other questions that you might have, they have all district related support there. Next. Community resources. There's that 211 number again. So that is I want you to remember that. If you don't remember any other number tonight, remember 211. Okay, unfortunately, suicide is on the rise in our community. So they have a 24-hour suicide hotline. Domestic violence is on the rise as well. So they have that. And all of this is located in CMSD's support. Oh, I've seen this advertised on television lately, the Ohio Mental Health Crisis Hotline. So this is manned 24/7 as well. If you are having an issue and just don't know where to turn, this is one of the numbers you can call or text. Okay, next. Now we're going to go back to the schools since that's what we're talking about tonight. If you're having a school-related issue, the first thing you want to do is email your child's teacher and or principal. Okay, so suppose you can't get in touch with one, then try the other. Next, you want to call the school office. Even during this pandemic, the offices are being manned, as I understand it, up until noon. And then after that, you should be able to reach someone by phone. And lastly, contact the school's ombudsman office if you have been unsuccessful in getting your problem resolved. So they don't want you to contact them first. Our CEO, and I call him Dr. Eric, well, he's not a doctor. Eric Gordon is very, very serious about any manners that parents or their constituents are having. So if you are having issues, don't just sit there and stew in it. You have a means of calling and getting your issues resolved, okay? And I have tried the ombudsman's office, and within 24 hours, my issue was resolved. Next. Okay, and there's the number if you want to take it down. I'll give you a second to write that down. Okay, someone has just texted me, do you know what an ombudsman is? Yes, let's address that. It is, many places have ombudsmans. Our mayor's office has one. Some of your bigger hospitals have these offices. If you're having an issue with anything and you feel like you've been taken for granted or it's not been resolved, these are people that fight on your behalf. That's what their job is. That's what an ombudsman does, okay? Next. Call or email the mayor's action line. If you have gone through all these things, and I guess you say, this is a lot of calling, this is a lot of emailing, but if you are just tired, call Mayor Frank Jackson's action line. Once again, CMSD is under the mayor's umbrella. So he is I found him to be a mayor that is for the people and for especially the kids of Cleveland. So if you're having issues, you can also use that number. And once again, the turnaround is usually 24 hours with them as well. They will either contact you back or someone will call you or email you in some kind of way. Next.
I have a question did come in. Do all districts have an ombudsman?
They should have something that's very similar. I did not, to be honest, I did not research that. I don't know, but I'm thinking that, I know where I'm from in East Cleveland, we didn't call it an ombudsman, but if you contacted the Board of Education, they had someone that would work you through your problems. So it might not be called that in particular. Good question. Okay, these numbers are for food. City of Cleveland has free food for all children under the age of 18 and younger. And they have 22 sites where you can pick this food up. Yeah, I would say daily, but I believe that they get certain times they give out maybe a certain number of meals for that particular day. Also in Cleveland Heights, Zagara's grocery store. That's one of the pickup sites where you can go and get food if you need food. And you don't have to answer any questions, you just pick up the food. So, next. Since we're talking about the digital divide, if you are having trouble with your child's computer or you have questions about remote learning, this is the number, if you want to write it down, for Cleveland. I do not have numbers for other districts, but I am just going to presume that they have some number where you can get technology help. But this is Cleveland's number. Next. Next. Okay, some of the resources that are out here. I was fortunate enough to work with an organization called Coach Sam Scholars. And what they do is, at that time, they had literacy programs for elementary students in some of the elementary schools. I believe it's 13 or 14 schools. Well, since the pandemic hit, they've had to scale back. So these are some of the places where they have set them up. JFK Rec Center, Rainey Institute, St. Paul's Community Church on the west side, and the Salvation Army on the west side. They also have a virtual component, so you can't get to these places. You can call that number. Katrina Spencer is in charge of that. She has 2 numbers up there. And she will put you in contact with free homework help for students and for parents. Next.
Someone asked about food distribution in Cleveland Heights.
Zagara's, I know Zagara's grocery store is where they give out the free meals. And it's usually, I would say between 12 and 1. They're not there all day. Okay, the Boys and Girls Clubs of Cleveland. Since the pandemic hit, there were 12 sites. They are down to 3 or 4 sites, and these are the sites that are open that you see on the screen. The contact number, that's the main office, which is located on Broadway, okay? And they are open for homework help, and they give out meals, and they have different programming. Just normally, just boys and girls would be interested in. And that's all the way up until the age of 18. Next. Okay. Many of us live near neighborhood centers. I found that I am fortunate by doing some research. I live near Lexington Vale. I live near Fatima. Okay, so there's 2 of them, and the Salvation Army. I happen to live in Huff, in case you can't tell. So these are some sites that are in other neighborhoods. I know Martin DePorce is in Glenville. May Dugan is on the west side. Salvation Army has several sites. Friendly Inn and Phyllis Wheatley are in the Central Promise neighborhood. So these are places that also have set up sites for homework help or daycare, meals, anything that you would need help with for your child. So try your neighborhood centers. I do know that the rec centers are not, Cleveland rec centers are not open. They're not open for this type of thing, for helping. Next. This is the Cleveland Public Library, the People's University. That's what they like to call it. They have tutoring and homework help. Now, this was before the pandemic hit. It was from 4 to 6 p.m., but they also are offering this online, okay? They have free homework help for students in math, science, history, language arts, okay? And so please give them a call. Your local one, the closest one to your home, and there are several. Okay, next. The Cleveland Public Library Words on Wheels is a new program that they have rolled out. I've seen it advertised on TV as well. If you have a library card, they will deliver books, movies, any type of media to your home. You just have to have a library card. So it's called Words on Wheels. So that's something new. Okay. Next. Okay. As you can tell, there are many resources available to help parents ensure that their children are getting what they need during this pandemic. Let's work together to make this happen. And I'm so sorry, I neglected to mention that for computer skills, if you are in need of help with that, Cleveland Public Library is another resource. And there's some place called PNC Fairfax on 82nd and Carnegie. They are a wealth of knowledge in anything dealing with media, computers, setting up your own business, job, how to get a job, you name it. So it's PNC Fairfax Connection. And it's not only for people that live in Fairfax. As a citizen of Cleveland, you can become involved in that as well. A lot of their things are online because of the pandemic, but I highly recommend them. Okay. So thank you, and let's work together to make this happen. Ujima.
Wow, thank you. That was very powerful. A lot of sources, and we're going to discuss some of the issues, and then probably at the end, maybe just roll the screen of the sources because then you'll have a more clear understanding of what issues are bothering you or plaguing you. And that you've been introduced to the different sources, and now you get a chance to discuss some of the issues and then roll the sources at the end, because some of you may not have had a pen out to write them down, and you may not have thought about some of those sources. And now that is, oh, wow, yeah. And you can now connect the two together. And Yana, can I ask you to discuss some of the issues regarding this whole virtual learning?
Sure. So I am a teacher. Right now, our biggest issue is students not showing up, so they're not logging in. Some of the other issues are parents being too busy, so they're working, or they have multiple kids in the home, so they're not able to work with each individual student all the time. I'm also finding, getting feedback. I'm also finding I'm coming across a lot of parents who have not graduated from high school themselves, and so they are intimidated by this whole process, and so they're not able to help their students, and especially the high school level, because some of those subject areas are just, they don't understand them. What else? There are a lot of issues. Depression. We are in the middle of a pandemic, and I think that's what's important, that it just kind of gets swept to the side, but we are dealing with a lot of deaths, especially in our community, and people are depressed. They have multiple family members who have passed away. They haven't even really had the opportunity to grieve. They can't be with their friends or families or anything to cope with it. And some of these students are really young. They're really young to have to have dealt with something like this. So you have a lot of students, a lot of students who are really depressed. And when they're depressed like that, the last thing they want to do is log in and work on chemistry homework. You know what I mean? I think those are some of the major issues I'm seeing.
Well, you've hit on some key ones. I don't know, has Don logged in yet? Sia? Okay, well, I'll hold that part until later. Parris, I know, has had to deal with some of these children whose parents were working and just needed another live body to help. You want to pop in and give some information on how your daycare center is dealing with this? Can't hear you. Can you change your volume or unmute yourself? There you go. Unmute. You're muted. Unmute yourself. Parris?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
You can hear me now? Okay. Well, at La Parity, we see working and actually having the right staff there that could actually help with those subject areas, because in a lot of the child care centers, a lot of our staff, they have high school diplomas or GEDs, and they may have, had some college, but doing the strategies and being a partner to the teachers is a strain if you don't have the right staff. Because you got 5 or 6 kids going on at the same time, different age groups, and this child in our Catholic schools, they're on all day. Once they sign in at 8 o'clock in the morning, they have classes. I mean, they're having gym, art, everything. So you got to have a lot of staff, but the state is not paying for that. So that's our dilemma, is how do we help parents with the finances to be able to pay for all day childcare?
Okay. And Lee, I know you mentioned something earlier about what the schools are doing to try to help these parents.
Yes, so here at Wade Park, we host monthly workshops. I know someone just mentioned that a lot of grandparents are raising children and they may have some challenges with using technology. So I know that was one of our issues early on. Over 60% of our families did not have internet at their house, and or did not, had never used either an iPad or a laptop before. So it was a huge shift, you know, having families that were not comfortable using technology, where now they had to use technology every day, and being in a space where they could use that device to help their child get on. So, you know, one of the ways that we are actively working, you know, we host one-on-one sessions every day. As Ms. Allen mentioned earlier, secretaries are staffed at every CMSD school from 8 to 12 and then 1 to 4 every day. So we do have staff at Way Park outside of our secretaries, like our family support specialists, my administrative team, where we host one-on-one sessions with families a couple times a week. They don't have to set an appointment. Usually they just call and say, we're having an issue, I'm on my way. We also host formal parent workshops twice a month, just to walk families and students, you know, through how to use the platforms, how to log in, you know, if they lose their paper schedule, where they look for it. So those are just some of the ways, some of the things that we're doing just to help families navigate this new virtual learning space.
Okay, then one of the questions that was asked, let me find the question, okay, that said, what are the best strategies and interventions to condense learning loss for students during this epidemic? What are some of the ways that we can help these students in terms of reducing their learning loss? If they're having problems in terms of the computers, and that was a big issue. That was a big issue prior to the epidemic that we have, that the state had decided that for the main tests, 9th grade proficiency exam tests and so forth, would be done online. And many of our students, and I think someone mentioned to us that 70% of these students did not have computers in their home. Yet their main tests were going to be done with a computer. Some of the superintendents have argued that they stay with paper and pencil tests, and the state is trying to convert them completely onto computer testing. And so when me, I got a dog that's very messy with someone else. Okay. This is one of the problems that you experience with virtual learning. Yeah, baby, thank you. My grandson was coming down to give me a message, and my dog decided no one else should be in the room but me. So, okay, what is this?
I can speak to it.
Okay, go ahead.
So, Ms. Clark, can you share that slide for me? It should be like the 5th slide.
Can I share what? I think C is looking for it.
Yeah, she's pulling it up. So one of the things that, while she's pulling it up, one of the things that we've tried to do is really create a sense of normal for students. Students love structure, they thrive on it, they need it. So one of the things that we really tried to do is really continue a lot of the things that we were already doing while they were in school. So I know when we started this virtual learning in September, we were averaging about 69% of students. That number was low, partly because we just had families that were having issues understanding how to set their hotspot up, how to log in. So now we're averaging about 88% every day. And the rest of that, students are able to log in the evening. So we do have some families that work during the day. They don't have anyone to watch their scholar. So they are able to watch the lessons in the evening. So, going back to really just creating a sense of normal for students has helped us maintain our attendance rate, maintain really encouraging students to log in. So anywhere from, like when we usually start the school year, the first Friday of the school year, students know that we always have a back to school dance. So we hosted a back to school dance our first week of school, and we had over 400 scholars that were logged in on Zoom for a back to school dance. Another thing that we've done to kind of keep them involved, if they are completing assignments, teachers can nominate them. So we have sent food to their house via Uber Eats. We mail out certificates twice a month with gift cards. Really just congratulate them and their families for doing a great job. Our teachers host various virtual birthday parties. One of the things that we do when the students are in school is we celebrate their birthdays the first Thursday of every month. So we weren't able to find a way to send cupcakes to the house, so we give them a shout out on our Instagram and our Facebook, and then we mail them a personalized birthday card. So I'm not going to speak about everything, but these are just some of the things that we've been doing to keep them engaged. We know if students are not logged in with their teacher that they're not learning. So this has definitely helped us bridge some of the learning loss, especially with our scholars being out of school since March. So now that we have our students, logging in, we have been able to set up some one-on-one and small group sessions on Wednesdays when students are not in formal classes, and been able to set up some tutoring sessions after school with scholars. So we're actively working to bridge that learning loss.
Very good. Very good. And someone mentioned about grandparents. We clearly have been volunteered by our children to grandparent. And that's a nice source, usually very inexpensive. I want to use the word cheap. And we tend to come on board. And many of my friends, when we sit down and we're talking about what our grandchildren are doing, that comes up. Grandparents have been pulled in to fill some of these sources. And I'm seeing Jamaal over there nodding his head, and I know that he's working with another group, or he's trying to pull another group together. Jamaal, you want to give us some information on that group?
Yes. So I'm actually the president of the Junior Barnes Foundation. We're a nonprofit organization that's rooted in the Cleveland. We help at-risk youth. We have a partnership with a couple of Cleveland public schools, and we have a running mentorship program called Future Initiative. And when we say future, we break the word down as an acronym for focused, unafraid, teachable, unbound, responsible, and enjoy. And the mentorship proponent is very critical right now, in assistance to our schools and our administrators and our teachers, the parents. Mentorship is very important and probably more critical than ever right now because of the emotional tear that's going on with our babies right now. And, me and my wife, we're parents of 3 daughters. We're blessed to be, unfortunately, a unique situation in this time frame where it's a 2-parent household to be able to assist for 3 children. My heart goes out to the single parents out here right now trying to navigate in this space right now and trying to figure out how to be able to juggle, handling all of their curriculum requirements and, basically parents have to go back to school right now as well, you know. And I applaud my wife because she's definitely better with dealing with the children's academics than I am. But, you know, I play my role, you know, and we're a team with this. And that's why right now it's so critical that, you know, as a community, we look at the importance of family right now. And, you know, to your point, Mama Sanza, it's a blessing to be able to have grandparents who can come and assist in this time frame right now. But, you know, with the mentorship piece, you know, obviously we can't always be in physical presence with each other, but the virtual, Zoom, FaceTime, however you can, you know, grab a young child and just try to, you know, be an assistance and bring an encouraging ear to them right now. It's critical to be able to do that.
Yes, it is. Then one of the things that we were talking about was what the schools were offering. And Robin was talking at length with me about curriculum construction. Robin, you want to pop in now?
Thank you for being here. I'm so excited. But this pandemic is hard and no one was expecting it. And what we're learning as we go, and therefore the schools even trying to work together to kind of collaborate to see how can we continue the learning for our scholars, especially kids of color. The schools have used the current curriculum into the digital space, is now trying to get that digital engagement. Our kids are used to being on devices. They're used to playing the games all day long, but they're not used to being on devices as a learning tool and to stay engaged as to have a class and everything. So that's a shift. That's a shift for them. And then for teachers that are used to being more hands-on and circulating around the class to see the students actually doing the work, it's a shift for them. So we had to give some forgiveness on both ends. We had to just continue to work through it. My concern, because there's two things. Well, when we started with the family, I think that we should just kind of continue to, and I thank Dr. Buddy for doing this in his school, to keep in contact with the parents. This is very difficult. They're not used to this word asynchronous time and synchronous time. They're thinking, what is that? So therefore, if we don't keep in contact with them for them to know it, then we're just trying to, it's just making it harder. So one thing that I do in my school is during an asynchronous time, and if you do not know synchronous and asynchronous, synchronous is when you are online live with your teacher. The teacher is teaching the lesson. The teacher is supposed to give some type of independent work. So the asynchronous time is that's when you're supposed to do your independence work. Most kids think if I'm not online, then I'm done. So therefore, they do not do their independence work, and then we do not get submission of work. So of course, learning, it only takes place when a person that you know master it, not that you just did it and everything. So we're trying to work through that issue. And one thing that I do during the asynchronous time is I Zoom on with 4th through 8th grade during the asynchronous time, and I watch them. I watch them do their independent work. So therefore, there's accountability, because if there's no accountability, it just won't get done. And we need to do some type of check and balances with that.
Okay. Anybody want to respond on to what she was just saying? Okay,
And
well,
Dr. Simmons, thank you for lifting, those points. Definitely, we were having some of those similar challenges when students had their asynchronous time, thinking it was free time, play time, nap time. I was really happy to see that a lot of my teachers have shifted. So they're now pulling small groups or working one-on-one during asynchronous time, really just to give students more support that we all know they need since they've been out of school since March. So that definitely has helped us with a lot of our classes, just teachers really taking, that time to pull them into small groups or one-on-one. Because we were kind of seeing what you were saying, where students were not completing those independent activities, lessons. And part of it is if students have not been trained to work in this space. So, asking a first grader, to log off Zoom and then now complete, 3 assignments by themselves, especially if, they do not have the necessary support at home, or, some of our kids are at daycares and the daycares are just not set up to provide that level of support that they would receive at school, has been a challenge for us. But just want to say, one of the ways we've kind of overcome some of those challenges, definitely not perfect yet, is our teachers are starting to pull students during that asynchronous time just to really, give them support throughout the entire school day.
Okay. I understand Tevin had something he wanted to add, Sia. Okay.
Yeah.
Can we unmute him? And
yeah, I've invited him over as a panelist. So Tevin, if you wanted to.
Hi, yes. So I actually run one of the.
You muted yourself again.
Oh, sorry. So I'm the director of Kids and Crowns, which is a local nonprofit. And I'm part of the MyCom network as of recently. So since this school year has begun, we've been in charge of one of the academic learning pod programs, where we essentially host in-person support. We, have tutors and monitors on hand to kind of bridge the gap everybody's talking about in between the teachers and the students that are at home in those situations where they don't necessarily have the right kind of support. So those kids that are suffering through that, we call it pandemic fatigue. I mean, it's the end of the semester. They've been in that learning pod where they can't roam, they can't really socialize the way they normally would, but they're not at home, pretty much left on their own either. So it's a hard middle ground to try to hold them accountable. I mean, like the gentleman just said, we have kindergartners all the way through 8th grade. And some of these kids have never been in a classroom setting at all. So trying to support them, keep them on task without having the same kind of structure, it's a delicate balance. I mean, we can't really discipline kids when they do get out of hand. We have 8th graders that act out in ways that we recognize as just being frustration, but they are still students that are in need. So we look at the rest of the village. We're the middle ground that reaches out to the teachers. We reach out to the social service agencies. We reach out and pull on the parents. And we try to reinforce the whole idea that it takes a village, because it truly does.
Besides, I wanted to chime in on a point related to what that brother was just speaking about. If it's okay.
go ahead.
That brother definitely made some great points related to, the challenges that are existing right here. And I just wanted to bring light to, statistically right now, boys in general, and this is across color lines, boys are falling behind at a disproportionate rate right now due to this pandemic educational crisis. And obviously our African-American boys are at the bottom of that list right now. And, this is a very critical thing that we have to make sure that we pay close attention to, because it can widen, the educational gap across the board on a long-term side. I was recently reading this book, and I just wanted to shine light to this book. I'm sure some of our people are familiar with this book right here, The Conspiracy to Destroy the Black Boys. And this is a very important read that was, I believe this was published in the 1980s.
Yes.
But very relevant today. The things that are in this book are very currently relevant in the time and the climate that we're in. And this book speaks to parents, administrators, teachers, a whole community effort of how we should be thinking about the attack that, you know, this can long-term cause for our young babies, especially our young Black boys, which is, you know, going to be a trickle-down effect for the Black family. So, you know, if you haven't read this book, if you are not familiar with this book, please, I urge you to get this book. I read it recently. It's very currently relevant.
And Jamaal, let me just come in to say, definitely what you're saying is true. And really I'll just say major props to you and your organization, the great work that you guys are doing in Anton with those boys over there. Definitely, you know, speaks to just the need that we have in this community to provide those wraparound services for our boys and really provide consistent, targeted support to make sure that they're staying on track. And that's really what your organization has been doing, continuing to do during this virtual learning. So definitely want to just congratulate you and give you some, you know, major kudos for that, because you're actively doing that work right now with boys at Anton Gradina. So just major kudos to you, Jamaal.
Big shout outs back to you, my good brother, because you are a pillar in this community as far as an example on how to run a school and administration. I talk to other school districts and, you know, other principals in the community. They're not handling their schools like you are. So big kudos to you as well, brother.
Hey.
Dr. Clark, may I add something?
Go ahead.
Now, there are many challenges, and we all know the challenges, but every time I look at a challenge, I also try to look at the possibilities. What can we learn through this to make us stronger at the end? And one thing that Dr. Buddy and Jamaal have kind of touched on is that unity factor. Now we can connect the dots. Maybe there was too many dots disconnected prior to COVID, and this is our prime opportunity to get all the organizations to be on a common level to connect the dots. And so therefore we need to take advantage of it and take a hold of it and run with it. You know, I'm the president of Metropolitan Cleveland Alliance of Black School Educators. And we partner with the Urban League, the NAACP, and other organizations that have an educational platform, because we know the need of connecting the dots. Together, we can do this. We can't do this individually. There's no way. I can't solve the pandemic. None of us can solve it. We're here. It's happening. We want to stay safe. We want everyone to live through it. So therefore, let's look at the possibilities that we can have during this.
Okay, well, you brought up the pandemic. We got 2 nurses on board. We'd like to hear from at least one of them in terms of how they feel in terms of this pandemic and the relationship with schooling. Either one of them want to pop in?
I'll go ahead and pop in. The pandemic in general is affecting us as far as schooling is concerned. So my children go to a different school district than Cleveland Public. But the problem that I know is being faced is exposure. Because we have people who aren't following the social distancing guidelines, it's leading us to a place where I know that the goal of the school is to get these children back in the buildings, but we can't do that unless we unify and kind of decide that we're going to follow these guidelines. And so unifying our thought process on conspiracy theories and all of those kind of things is what is going to allow us to get our kids back in the school district. Because ultimately this crisis is a crisis because these children are not in school. And as you mentioned, not to say that everything was great when they were in the school buildings, but they were in the school building. So we had a little bit more control. So from a nursing standpoint, I think that it's very important for us to focus on keeping our community educated on the reality of this condition. I think people have gotten comfortable and the numbers don't mean as much to them right now, but these numbers are continuing to climb. I know that the vaccination has come out now, and we will have to see how that affects things. But as of right now, we are still at dire risk of contracting this condition and of losing parents, and like he said, the mental health that goes with that and everything. So just awareness on the seriousness of not having these social gatherings is what we do. You know, I know it's what we do, especially during this holiday time. Family is what's kind of keeping us sane, but we have to keep our children in mind, not just our elderly who can get sick, but our children who can't get educated.
Very good. Very good point. Theresa, do you want to pipe in at all?
No. Can you hear me?
Very little. Can you up the volume a little bit?
Okay, let's see. Well, I guess I'm thinking in terms of the pandemic, just the emotional and psychological impact it's having on everyone. The adults around the children, that we can't be as attentive to their needs because it is also stressful for the adults normally taking care of the children. So that's like my main thinking about it. Just the impact of the pandemic emotionally on us.
Okay, is Don around? Don C? Okay, I guess he's not in. He's been doing a lot of work with people who are depressed and some of the carryover that goes into domestic violence and some of the children, because this is, I think Parris mentioned this, being in school, they go through a socialization process because they learn how to interact with their peers. And now they're isolated. And some of the parents are reporting some of the problems that they're seeing in their children, which is a direct relationship to not socializing with their age group. And this is probably more obvious when you have the only child, where there's siblings in the house. Is not, maybe Tanya's over there giggling. With the siblings in the house, it may not be as apparent as it is when you only have a single child. And that child is isolated from what would normally be a maturing, a socializing, you know, with their own peers. That's not there. How we deal with that, that's something that we as a community need to think about. Some of the parents are telling me that they talk with other families that are monitoring those social interactions in terms of the virus. So when they find a family that they feel is safe, then they try to get their child to interact with that family, because then that child has some socializing going on. Otherwise, if they feel that the family is, you know, not adhering to some of the social issues regarding the medicine, they don't want their child interacting with that family. And what happens is the child ends up being alone. And that is a serious problem, which we as a community may want to talk about a little bit more, about how we can deal with that issue. And I see Parris over there moving around, so I'm gonna pick on her and ask her to pick up that ball a little bit.
Well, you know, I wanted to just talk a little bit about that Ohio Learning, which is a new initiative with Governor DeWine. It's where parents have a network and they can actually, if their child has an IEP, they can hire a provider. The state gives them a certain amount of budget. And so what we have done as childcare providers, if you have the degree and if you have a degree in education, then what can happen is those parents that normally would like someone to come into their home, we have them come into our childcare centers and let them come at least 1 or 2 days a week where they can get that socialization. And most of them have maybe some social disorders, and we find that works. So it gives the mom a break. She gets to bring them out of the home even though they're doing all their schooling online, they get to come to us maybe 3 to 6, and the state pays for it, but they're getting tutoring and they're getting it through play. Even a 3rd grader, you know, they have this IEP where they pretty much can't socialize pretty much with other students. They might feel isolated. So we really take that child and we let them play in a drama zone. We let them play with the magnetic tiles, and then we can teach through that. So that has been working for us, being providers for the state. And so then my staff can get extra pay, you know, to be a tutor for that family. So that's one of the ways that we've been trying to bring that socialization back into the community versus us going into their home or going to a library to tutor them. They come actually to my center.
Okay. Anybody else want to comment on that further? In terms of how to deal with these children? Okay, we've covered quite a bit. And thanks to Tanya, she introduced us to the various places to go to get help. And help is out there, help is available. And maybe now that we're near the end, because the hour is, ooh, yeah, almost up. Sia, can we get a rerun of those sources?
Yeah, I do want to, there were some comments in the Q&A. I'll read through them. They weren't really questions, but
Okay.
Londa Bird had a few comments. One saying that a lot of grandparents are also raising kids, and you know, some of them are also computer illiterate. She says we must give it time to work. It is new for students and most teachers. We are learning as we go. And she says some of my boys like virtual learning and are doing better because of less classroom distractions. Alicia Dodson says, in response to the question about interventions for lost learning, I would hope the state suspend all testing except for graduation tests for this year and next. And then someone else asked, will this session air again? It won't, but we're hopefully, I don't know, we may be able to, because we're recording it, have it maybe available in some way. I do want to say that even though I'm not officially a panelist, in terms of testing, I know a lot of universities have suspended requiring certain tests. So like I'm the director of the graduate program for my department at Howard University, and Howard University has gotten rid of the GRE requirement for all incoming applications for spring 2021, fall 2021, and has basically said all departments after that, it's up to them. Our department has decided to just get rid of the GRE as a requirement, period. So a lot of universities are also doing that. And I don't know about what's happening there, but I do know that, you know, that is also happening. A lot of universities are taking that into consideration. So folks should kind of check that out. So if you're thinking about going back to school, it might be a good time.
Okay.
Mama Sanza, can I say one thing, Mama Sanza?
Yeah, go ahead.
Before we get out of here, I just wanted to make sure that I took a moment to publicly give you your flowers, Mama Sanza, for having the initiative to put this panel together, and really for just your heart over the years, you know, for being a founder of the Mali Yetu program, which you see I'm repping on this shirt right here. I'm a product of the Mali Yetu program, and all the babas and all the mamas who were teachers and put that together, my parents and Mama Theresa, all you people who, you know, poured into us back in the 80s, you know, that was fertile ground that you poured into, and a lot of people who came out of Mali Yetu are doing some beautiful things. And so, you know, my prayer is just that, you know, the next generation finds a way to step up and, you know, pass the torch and find a way to continue to, you know, make sure we protect our babies. But publicly, kudos to you, Mama Sanza.
Yes.
Well, don't forget, we got another founder here, Mama
Theresa.
Theresa, yeah.
Theresa. Oh, I can't see her, but bless you, Mama Theresa.
Yeah, there's a lot of positive people out here. A lot. I'm looking at the order. We got Mama Tanya, we got Mama Michele also present. And you'll know that we're all identified as mamas. And mama is a very powerful person. You know, our community would not be existing. And then our men, we all refer to them as Baba. And Jamaal started out at what, 7, 8 years old in Mali Yetu, became a leader and became a teacher and earned the title of Baba.
I graduated to Baba.
And it's the mamas and the babas that make our community strong. And we're seeing them, you know, with Mali Yetu. I would say the vast majority of our teachers were babas. You know, so what they were saying about Black males, I mean, that did not apply. They came out, educated our children, and are continuing it by what we see with Jamaal talking. So yeah, and that can be done. Again, we're in a crisis. We recognize that crisis. The pandemic has made it apparent that we're in a crisis. We can't hide and pretend that everything is going along okay. And so, you know, we pick up the bat and move on with it. Because what I'm hearing from y'all is that y'all young people are powerful. And all y'all got to do is, as the third principle of Kwanzaa, who, you know, says, collective work and responsibility. And y'all have it within you to produce, save our children. You've got to be the safety net for our children. They cannot fall below us. And listening to you tonight, I know that you have within you the power and the will to do that. So I'm, you know, like, hey, wow, I'm happy. I can sit back and enjoy what y'all gonna be doing.
I just like to also say that when we talk about resources, every one of us is a resource.
Yes.
So you just cannot sit back and look at problems that are in your community or in your schools, your neighborhoods, and do nothing about it. You're a resource, even if it's collecting box tops for education and taking it to the school so they can order something, or collecting applesauce cups so they can use it for art. You know, whatever you can do to help a school, it's up to us to do it. And all you have to do is ask. I'm sure we went to Dr. Buddy's school. He would tell us, give us a whole list of things that we could do or bring to his school to make it better. So please just reach out. We're all resources.
I want to piggyback on that also. Being a resource, a person in the community, you could be a resource to the teacher as well. I have been a mentor to children, but more importantly, I'm that teacher assistance. Whatever she requires or whatever she needs, it'd be books in the classroom. It could be pencils, supplies. So partner with a teacher and help the teacher teach the class. I've adopted many classrooms. I'm still adopt a classroom. Now we're trying to figure out how we can do it virtually. So it's probably be I'll probably go into the classroom virtually. We're still trying to figure it out. We haven't figured it out yet, but we're going to figure it out. I used to go into the classroom once a month and do programs and activities. And my kudos to Dr. Buddy with all the engagement he has going on throughout his school. You must keep the children engaged. If they're going to turn on the computer, they'll turn on to a games because they engage. So do something creative to get them engaged where you can make learning fun.
Very good. I thank you all. You know, the future is looking a lot brighter now after talking with people like y'all. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay. See you. Take us out.
I don't have anything to say to me. I mean, good night, and I'll be in touch with folks in terms of if this is, we can find a place to, you know, make it available, probably on the Facebook group, the Mali Yetu group, and probably find a way to put it on YouTube or something, but we'll find a way to make it available. Thank you everyone for coming out. Thank you panelists and attendees. I love everybody.